We're talking about a real good football team here, the Houston Texans, and we're bringing in our guy, Adam Clanton, host of the A-Team on Sports Talk 790 AM in Houston. Adam, welcome to the Big Play Podcast, my man.
Hey, it's good to be here for my inaugural visit. How you guys doing?
Good.
We're good. We're good. Hey, we were just looking on YouTube. Jay was pulling up some old clips. Did you ever do a Jim Rome impersonation?
You know, what's funny about that is that was actually still during my TV days, if you will.
Okay.
And I was on my way to anchor that day on the NBC affiliate here in town, and Travis Rogers was Jim's old producer, whom he had discarded like yesterday's garbage. And he stuck his head in the door as I was leaving. I was there to drop off something. I wasn't even there to be on the air that day. And he said, "Hey, I think it's time for my old boss to visit my show." And so I went in there and kind of started doing the impression. And he writes down a note during the segment. He says, "Just finish the segment as Jim," and the rest is history. You have the YouTube video there.
Oh, that's fantastic. So let's move on to the Texans. So, obviously we're in the offseason here. Texans ended the year 11-5, had a pretty awful start, became one of the hottest teams in the NFL, winning the AFC South, get bounced by the Colts in the wild card round. What's the feeling in Houston right now? Kind of a sour way in 2018 to kind of come to a close.
Well, I think I should probably preface anything by saying that I'm probably a little harder on the Texans than most. I'm not the biggest Bill O'Brien fan, and the reason for that is, and I can't explain it, it's the weirdest phenomenon. I think it goes back to the Oilers. Once they left and you got the NFL back in 2002, it's been like this honeymoon where the Texans trot out either bad to very mediocre teams, and because 9-7 looks better than 8-8, people just lap it up, and there's still like this waiting list for season tickets. And I'm over here like, hello, this is not good football. You were 11-5 last year, yeah, but you were playing a fourth place schedule, and you really played some Sisters of the Poor on that schedule. And then fast forward to the end of the season, that last month, and particularly kind of, if you want to go back to the second half of the Cleveland game, that defense started getting torched.
Yeah.
And when you combine that with a line that could not block for Deshaun Watson, you had some real problems. And now you're going into this year, you're going to be playing a first-place schedule. And just take a look at the quarterbacks they're going to be facing, and then take a look at what happened to their secondary already and what they really haven't done to address it, in my opinion. I think the Texans could kind of be in for another rough year. Maybe not 4-12, but I'm looking more towards the 8-8, 9-7 versus 11-5, which I think is fool's gold.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the defense. So, you had a pretty good year out of the Honey Badger, Kareem Jackson, Justin Reed, but they were still 28th in passing defense. So, I mean, do you have any faith in the duo of Deshaun Gibson and Bradley Roby that they can kind of improve on that 28th ranking?
It was interesting because everybody was kind of acknowledging, hey, this defense, or particularly this secondary, is giving up chunks of yardage. But yet when Kareem Jackson walked and Tyrann Mathieu signed with Kansas City because they offered more money, everybody's all up in arms. And I'm like, well, you needed some sort of change. The cornerback position in particular is just brutal. You mentioned Justin Reed. That's a home run for a new GM and Brian Gaine.
Yeah.
But you just had Trey Howell retire yesterday out of nowhere. And he's 26 years old and was seemingly healthy. He says in his statement that it's not about his health. So you have a very thin secondary, and the players you have brought in, they're kind of unknowns. So I'm very skeptical about that defense. And then you obviously have the situation with Jadeveon Clowney and the franchise tag. There's a lot of question marks on that side of the football for sure.
One question mark that's probably not there anymore, J.J. Watt, finally healthy. Last year, 16 sacks, 25 hits on the quarterback, 18 tackles for a loss. You think he can replicate that in this coming season?
I'll say this. I will never doubt that guy again. I was eating crow all season long, and it was delicious. You're talking about a guy, he had multiple back surgeries and a broken leg, and he had the numbers you just mentioned. It's insane. And, he's a cyborg. He's a different kind of guy. When the Texans handed him $100 million, nobody blinked an eye. Jadeveon Clowney, it's the exact opposite. Yeah, he's good, but he's not great. You know what I mean? Like, you want to date him, but you want to have some crazy sex, but you don't want to marry and settle down. You know what I mean?
That's very true. So, I mean, we're obviously it's early. We haven't even gotten to the draft. But what are Houston Texans fans saying on the radio right now? What do they want to get in the draft?
I think offensive line is options 1, 2, and 3. I mean, I know I just talked about how the secondary is just horrific, but I mean, 62 times Deshaun Watson got sacked, and no, they weren't all the offensive line's fault. He's got to learn how to not hold on to the ball too long. He's got to learn how to throw it away when he's getting to the sideline. The usual things you would expect from basically a first-year quarterback. He only played 6 games his rookie year, but I think that's the number one goal, and that's another thing where it's this weird dichotomy. You want the Texans to be more active, quote unquote, than they have been, but you also know that, you know, like any position of value, if you have a franchise left tackle, chances are you're not letting them walk out the door. They're not walking the street.
Right.
So you kind of have to determine, okay, what's the draft class look like in the draft? Can we get a guy or guys in this case that can not only come in and do their job, but then play as a cohesive unit. And I don't know that the Texans will be able to kind of cure what ails them in one offseason, especially when you see their lack of activity in free agency. And I know a lot of times, a lot of people will say if you win in free agency, then you're going to lose during the season, and that's been proven over and over again. But I think there was just such a lack of activity on the Texans' part, other than maybe signing, one of their own to another deal. I think people want to know that Deshaun Watson's not going to get killed. He had to go to Jacksonville on a bus because he couldn't fly because he had a partially collapsed lung. That's not good for your franchise quarterback.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, Deshaun Watson, what's the feeling, around him? Obviously, it sounds like you want to make sure he's protected, but do you think he's injury prone? Do you think that that was kind of a one-off thing and he's going to have a nice, successful year with the Texans?
Well, and that goes back to why you want to protect him, because you do have a history of injuries that are major, A, and B, they weren't, that ACL that he tore was non-contact during practice. It wasn't even during a game. He wasn't hurt by getting, hit. So you're always you're thinking about that in the back of your mind. That's why I'm like, come on, guys, if you have that kind of situation, he's obviously an all-world talent. I mean, he's football Jesus here in Houston. Everybody loves him. But you can't have any sort of question marks surrounding protecting this kid when he's already kind of behind the 8 ball. And I hate that. But that's the reality of having Deshaun Watson on your football team. You're going to be thinking about that in the back of your mind at all times. And so, yeah, everybody believes in him. Everybody loves the kid. He's done so much good off the field already, not to mention what he's done that's just electric on the field. You want to give him the best chance to win, and for God's sakes, don't waste another prime of a franchise player. I saw it with Andre Johnson. I saw it to a large extent in a lot of years that J.J. Watt has been here, and DeAndre Hopkins isn't getting any younger. So don't let Deshaun Watson be the latest guy that you kind of waste a bunch of years of his prime because you don't have your act together in the front office.
Yeah, we are chatting with Adam Clanton. Go listen to him in Sports Talk Radio 790 AM in Houston. Give him a follow on Twitter at Adam Clanton. Thoughts on the running back position in Houston? We're having Buddy Howell on here, who played some special teams for you guys last year. I believe he's right now third string running back on the roster. Are you guys happy with the running back situation? What are fans saying right now?
Well, I think everybody is universally happy that Alfred Blue is not going to be suiting up in a Texans uniform.
Fair enough.
Right.
It's the most random, non-factor guy to ever just have like a lifetime contract. Seemingly, he's going to go suit up for the Jacksonville Jaguars and be mediocre for them. Yeah. Look, Lamar Miller is not an all-world running back. He's not the answer. He's not horrible. Again, it goes back to the offensive line. I do like what Dante Foreman brought when he was healthy.
Okay.
He kind of had a very catastrophic injury, and He's still coming back from that. I didn't expect much when he got on the field at the end of last year, but I think the Texans, for whatever reason, they're happy with that tandem for now. Maybe, in the future they go to try to hit a home run. It's weird. The running back position in the NFL is not even what it was 10 years ago, let alone 20 or 30. So you can kind of get by not having a stud at that position. A lot of talk about Le'Veon Bell this offseason.
Yeah.
I never thought the Texans would seriously give him a look just because you just don't need a running back at that price tag in today's NFL. It's all about passing.
All right, Adam, I'm going to put you on the spot here real quick. We talked about the Jim Rome thing. Jay does a fantastic Mel Kiper impression. I just want you to have a 10-second conversation real quick.
All right,
here we go. I'll give you a countdown.
Let's hear it.
So you know it's coming. All right, 3, 2, and 1. We're joined right now by Mel Kiper, an expert when it comes to the NFL draft. His mock drafts are religiously followed. Mel, what is up? Good to have you in the jungle.
Well, thanks for having me, Jim. I appreciate it.
Let me tell you, right now it's looking like a pretty weak class at the quarterback position. I know that it looks like the number one spot's going to be taken. Everybody knows that Kyler Murray's going to go and reunite with Cliff Kingsbury out in the desert. What say you after number one?
Well, certainly the smoke's there. Kyler Murray's obviously going to go first. Dynamic playmaker out of Oklahoma. Of course, Heisman Trophy winner.
Right there because I want to react to what you just said, and I'm up against the break, and I've got to get my take in here. How to take those suck.
Adam Clanton killing it on the Big Play Podcast. Adam, we greatly appreciate the time. Thanks for stopping in. Love to have you back sometime.
Oh, no problem. It was fun, guys, and I didn't mean that. That was just an impression.
No. Adam Clanton, ladies and gentlemen, give him a round of applause. That was hilarious.
That's the best Rome impression I've ever heard. I didn't even. He's not even known for that. I happened to look at a video and I'm like, wow.
So that was like what, 5 minutes before we went live? We're like, holy crap, what is this?
I love he just cut me off right in the middle of that. Let me jump in.
Oh man, he is fantastic.
Love that guy.
Let's keep the Texans